I'd like to say to, in most cases, the men that are listening to us, let your wife's journey be what it is. Be a man of integrity, a man of valor, as we talk about here on the show. Let that take care of itself eventually. If you are a person that recognizes and accepts that you're going to need encouragement, it's probably going to be from other men at the early weeks, months of your recovery journey. And be an encouragement to them, as you were talking about earlier, Randy. And strangely enough, be a leader of your home and be an encourager of your wife. Be an encourager of her to do what she needs to do to take care of herself. And you know what? One of the best things you can do to encourage her is to be the man that God called you to be. Be sober, be safe, be kind, be affirming, be a man who provides, all those kinds of things. Be an encourager.
Welcome to the Faithful and True podcast. This morning we're going to take you back in time to an earlier legacy podcast with myself and Dr. Mark Laaser. The subject of today's podcast is the importance of encouragers. Mark and I have a great conversation and discussion about the importance that anyone going through recovery will find in having encouragers involved in their recovery. So here now is Dr. Mark Laaser and myself, Randy Evert, in the Faithful and True podcast, The Importance of Encouragers.
Randy, you and I were both at the same church service this past Sunday, and we heard a rather inspiring message on encouragement.
Being an encourager, yep.
Right. It was part of a longer series on being an influencer, I believe. And but as I've been thinking about it all week, I thought it would be a good topic for the show. The reason being, I've always felt, and I think maybe listeners to the show would know that in the past we've talked about the fact that in a program of accountability, there needs to be encouragers as much as there needs to be, for lack of a better word, discouragers. Discouragement in the field of addiction really would refer to, those people who are reminding us of the things that we're not supposed to do.
Right, or the shameful past that we have been living. The importance of having an accountability group would almost by nature, hopefully, include encouragers among you.
That's right. So it's interesting in the, the providence of things, the serendipity of things, however you want to look at it. Generally, when we do the show here, it's right after I've come back from my morning trek to the health club. And when I'm at the health club, like so many health clubs, they have their, banks of TV. So when you're on the treadmill or the bike or the Stairmaster machine or whatever it is, you can watch one of the morning talk shows. And it's one of the ways that we here at Faithful and True keep up with pop culture. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. and we ourselves, I was intrigued by your idea that we talk about this today because we were at that same service and actually we're in the business of encouragement here.
That's right. But I was on the bike this morning and on one of the talk shows. I won't identify the one. It's not that important. But they all have various segments. They're always going to have a cooking segment, a star or a celebrity segment, and then they're going to have various topics of the day. And then, depending on that topic, they will have some expert on the show. And one of the topics today was some new parenting guru who was basically saying that parents say no to children way too often. So they did a piece on several mothers who have toddlers, and it showed them going through daily routines and how often the mother actually said no to the child. And then this program had their own expert on, parenting expert, a Ph.D. type in, I don't know what, educational psychology perhaps. And this woman was saying that it's absolutely the role of a parent to say no to a child because it's the way a child learns internal no's and begins to form in what we know now to be the prefrontal cortex of the brain, what Sigmund Freud would have called the superego, meaning, the no inside of all of us. All of us should have no's inside of us about things that we don't do. Obviously, addicts probably have those no's, but they choose to run the stop sign and
That's right.
go past them. But I think one of the things that came out of it for me in terms of just watching that show is what is the role of, in parenting, for example, of discouragement versus encouragement. And I guess I came away thinking that we probably need both. Just like in our field of addiction recovery, we definitely need to have those people who are reminding us of the no's, but also those people who are reminding us of the yeses, of the things that we should be doing, not just the things that we're stopping, but the things that we're starting. So I'd kind of like to go over that today, and I have at least one, if not other questions for the listeners to be thinking about this morning.
Well, I think that every time that you come and have prepared those questions that we are putting out there for the listeners, I think that it helps generate further discussion and deeper discussion about topics like this. I know that we have a number of men's ministries, men's groups that meet on a weekly basis that are now listening to our show. Mm-hmm. And I think when you pose questions like this, it provides them with these topics for further discussion when the show ends.
Yeah, so by the way, I love the thought, the possibility that what you just said is true, that there are not just individual listeners out there, but that there are couples listening and that there are groups listening, and they are hopefully, in a way, getting encouragement from the show, but that we're also week to week providing them with some questions or topics for discussion in the group.
It's funny you should say that, because I had what struck me as a funny conversation the other day. A woman called in, started by talking to our administrator, Sherry, and the woman kept insisting on being transferred to me.
Right.
And so the call got transferred to me, and Sherry said, I don't know why, but this woman is insisting on talking to you. And so I took the call, and after a very few short moments, the reason she was asking to talk to me is that she and her husband have been listening to the show. Mm-hmm. And so in her eyes, I had a touch of credibility in her eyes because she's listened to us on the show. So I do know that, as you just mentioned, couples are sitting down together and listening to podcasts of the show and are being encouraged by your message.
Yeah, but, Randy, you just need to confess that you've always been a rock star.
I do. I do have a magnetism when it comes to the microphone. I can't help myself.
I just have this images of when you did have hair, it was long, and you were strumming some guitar.
I was strumming guitars from coast to coast, and this is why to this day I still enjoy watching shows like The Voice,
right?
Because that fantasy, it's much like your sports fantasies that you and I have grown up with.
Right.
You still can't help but watch Wimbledon and take yourself back to that match against Jimmy Connors in high school,
right?
And the victory that might have been, but that's how it is for me with the music business that I was in for about 20 years.
Well, I'm a person always in search of a segue. Mm-hmm. So the segue there would be when I think about my tennis career, as mediocre as it in fact was. There was a coach in my high school years that was my coach basically for 3 years, from my freshman year to my junior year, and it was in that junior year that I did play that match with Jimmy Connors. And he was an encourager. He was just a simple man. He he taught industrial arts, I think, and back in those days, I was on the college prep route, so I didn't take industrial arts, which I kind of regret to this day, as I've kind of fumbled my way through various home projects. But he was an encourager. He wasn't the greatest tennis coach in terms of his ability to teach strokes or perhaps even strategy. But he was the guy that got us all organized out there in the courts, got us divided up into our various positions on the team. And I just remember that when we would go out to play, he would always encourage. He would give us, words of affirmation. And the segue for me was when I remember when I came off the court after having soundly lost to Jimmy Connors. He simply said, "Mark, I've never seen you play that well." Mm-hmm. And I think, what I interpreted it to mean is
that's how far away you were from being great.
That's how far away I was from being great myself. But no, I think, in a way he was saying that he was proud of me for being in there, for battling, for winning a couple of games. I think also what he said was that what I interpreted it to mean is that you will sometimes rise to the level of your competition, and that on that day, that had in fact happened. As I think back on the match, I did play well. I can honestly say that, I didn't tank or, I didn't clutch or I didn't do any of that. I played very well. I was just, obviously outclassed. But the point of it more is that the coach could have said very negative things. He, could have been very discouraged, disappointed. But he was a man of encouragement, and that was very meaningful to me at a time that I needed to hear those kind of words. So,
and isn't it true though that encouragement by nature, is that that input of positivity
right.
that really does. It right. helped you handle the moment of defeat
right.
in a much more positive manner, and instead of going home totally deflated at this resounding loss, you went home and said, "You know what? I played my best today. My coach even told me so, and yet I lost to a better player."
Yeah, that's right. So, as we maybe move into our break here, let me just pose the same question that the pastor asked all of us to think about on Sunday morning, and that was, who were the encouragers in your life? If we go back to what we've talked about here in this first segment, parenting is a difficult job to know, about no's and yeses and discouragement and encouragement. And I think, a lot of people that come to the center here who are struggling with addiction and relationship issues, they do have stories growing up in their families of not having enough encouragement. We do an exercise here with couples. I can't get into all the length of it, but at the end of the exercise, Debbie and I always try to speak words of encouragement and truth into both the husband and the wife. And generally when we do that, I'll put my hand on the man's shoulder and just speak words of truth about God's love for that man and what is true about him, despite perhaps a history of sexual sin and lots of things. And when we got done with the exercise, we went back into my office because we do the exercise in our large group room. And he sat down and he just started to weep. And he said, "I wish that my father had ever said anything halfway similar to what you just said to me in that other room." So I think a lot of our listeners probably can relate to, a history, perhaps in their family, perhaps in their school systems, perhaps in the system of their neighborhood or whatever it was. But the question for you to think about, and the question for perhaps group discussion is, can you come up with some names of who the encouragers were in your life? And I think before we go too much farther, we should basically also, because we are a faith-based program here, that we should mention the the biblical example that was offered to us in the message on Sunday morning, and that was a man that one of the early apostles that shows up in the book of Acts, and his actual name was Joseph, and when he became a Christian and a follower of Christ, the other apostles gave him what in effect was a nickname, and the nickname they gave him was Barnabas. And in Hebrew, bar is always the word for son of, and so really what the name means is son of encouragement. And Barnabas was an encourager, and I think the earliest example of that is that when Saul, who had been a Hebrew rabbi, well educated, and was given the assignment early on in the days of the church to suppress the early followers of Christ, and had literally been hunting them down and in some cases killing them. He, of course, had an encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, and came back to Jerusalem, and now he wanted to meet with the apostles, who, of course, didn't trust him at all, and they were very negative about the danger there. They thought, well, it was a trick. Barnabas was the one who was willing to go and hear him out and find out what his story was, and became one of the early encouragers of Saul, who, of course, in his Christian name was given the name Paul. And Paul is responsible for 13 epistles, 2/3 of the New Testament, because I think really of that early experience of encouragement from the son of encouragement, otherwise known as Barnabas. So I think we owe a certain amount of affirmation to a man who really is only mentioned several times in the book of Acts, but his role, without being famous or without writing any letters himself, was a very key and essential one, in that Paul would perhaps not have been accepted if it had not been for this man who was an encourager. So I think, one of the questions for this segment for the listeners to think about would be, as you seek to be yourself in the process of transformation, meaning that you had an old life. The old life was full of ways that you coped. Some of that coping became addictive and unmanageable, as we've talked about before in the show. And you're looking to change, and you're looking to do things differently now. You're looking for transformation. You're looking for a new life. Would it be better just to have people reminding you of all of your failures in the past and reminding you of all the things now you're not supposed to do? Or would it be better to have encouragers in your life who are reminding you of your vision, of moving forward, of the healing possibilities, and challenging you with yeses, with positive encouragement to do things differently as you move into the future?
And what a powerful thing that is, not only to receive, but to give. When you're a member of an accountability group like this, we all share this camaraderie. We all share this common goal, especially when you're in a men's accountability group. Maybe it's through your church or whatever. To be there for a friend, for another member of your group, because it just seems to be so much more powerful to be building on the positive rather than tearing down with the negative or the seeds of doubt that we all have in our minds. Right. If you've got somebody on a daily basis that is giving you affirmations and positivity, I think that in those moments of weakness, maybe that's that hotel room when you're on the road. Right. If you've got that friend that you can turn to, and they turn around and say, "Hey, I was thinking of you. I'm glad you called. You can do this." Right. That's a powerful gift that you can offer to someone.
Well, I think basically, one of the themes of this show is that we are to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and one of the themes of that message that we heard the other morning was how to become an influencer. And there's been a series of other things we need to be thinking about there in terms of being an influencer. But I definitely think that one of the best ways to be an influencer is to be a person who is able to affirm, say positive things, and therefore be an encourager. Now, let's talk for just a minute here about what do you think is one of the blocks to being able to hear encouragement. And so many of the men that we work with that are part of our community here at Faithful and True, they struggle with shame. Perhaps they grew up in homes, environments, neighborhoods, schools, churches even, where there were not positive words, where there's a lot of negativity. Today is not a show to get into all the ways that can happen, but I do know for a fact that the average man who comes here grew up with some reproach, some discipline that was entirely negative, some criticism, some put down, some teasing, some sarcasm,
overuse of guilt.
Yes, that's a big one in some churches that have been out there. I'm not going to name any denomination. I think there are those denominations that claim they have an ownership on guilt, and I reject that. I think it's been a universal problem. I think it's a totally ecumenical issue.
No one deserves to claim it solely as theirs.
That's right. But if you grew up in whatever system, a church system, a school system, a neighborhood system, a family system, in which there were put downs, teasing, negatives, criticisms. If you grew up not being celebrated, meaning that people didn't really, in a way, let you know that they were just glad that you were alive, you were around, you were born. That's what we call blessing, meaning that people are just unconditionally supportive of you, regardless of your behavior. Debbie and I write about this in our book, The 7 Desires, that two of the desires we all need are affirmation for things that we do and blessing for who we are. So some of the listeners did not grow up with a lot of affirmation or encouragement. In fact, they grew up with discouragement or criticism. Some of them didn't grow up with blessing. They grew up with anti-blessing. It's like, they were ignored. They were not given the kind of attention they needed. They were left feeling, I must not be good enough, I'm a terrible person. That's what we call shame. So I would ask the listeners to think about what happens to you if someone in your accountability group or someone in your community, someone in your system, even your own spouse, tries to give you a word of encouragement or affirmation. How do you receive it? Because encouragement is a two-way thing. I mean, I think you have to be around encouragers, and then you have to be able to hear it. And one of the ways I definitely know that we all work on our sense of shame is to be around encouragers. So if your response frequently is yes, but you have some objection to, not objection, you just say, yeah, but, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, you don't get it, you don't understand. I oftentimes find myself saying, like in group, when some of the men are presenting an issue and some of the other men in the group are trying to give them encouragement and affirmation, I often wind up telling them to just be quiet, not talk back, just listen. We have a lot of famous phrases in the recovery movement, but one of them is just take it in. So if you're around encouragers, just take it in. Pretend like you might believe it, and after a while, you might start believing it. And one of the last things I think to talk about today would be if you find yourself like in a marriage right now because of your sexual sin or your history, where, for a time at least, your spouse is not able to be encouraging because of all the pain and the woundedness of, what you've done to them. that's their journey. I mean, that's where they are, and that's okay in the sense that there's going to have to be a lot of healing of that pain. I think a lot of guys get stuck thinking that, well, gee, I've been a month sober now, and my wife should just automatically start affirming me for being sober for a month. I can hear the typical response of a lot of the spouses of, why should I affirm you for something that shouldn't have been a problem in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to say to, in most cases, the men that are listening to us, let your wife's journey be what it is. Be a man of integrity, a man of valor, as we talk about here on the show. Let that take care of itself eventually. That if you are a person that recognizes and accepts that you're going to need encouragement, it's probably going to be from other men at the early weeks, months of your recovery journey, and be an encouragement to them, as you were talking about earlier, Randy. And strangely enough, be a leader of your home and be an encourager of your wife. Be an encourager of her to do what she needs to do to take care of herself. And you know what? One of the best things you can do to encourage her is to be the man that God called you to be. Be sober, be safe, be kind, be affirming, be a man who provides, all those kinds of things. Be an encourager. And then one of the last things that I think about, and of course Ben is sitting here as our engineer, but I think one of the things all fathers wonder about is, have I encouraged my children enough? So I think this encouragement theme is one of the ways that we break the cycle of addiction, the sins of the father being passed down from one generation to the next, is that with our children, also we decide to be encouragers.
Thank you for joining us today on the Faithful and True podcast. We hope that you have enjoyed this legacy presentation featuring Dr. Mark Laaser and myself. This is a subject that is a very positive one, and one that we hope you will benefit from, with the importance of encouragers in your life and in your healing journey. We hope that if you've been encouraged by this, you'll visit our website, faithfulandtrue.com, where you'll find lots of resources and available help to guide you along the way in your healing journey. We also hope that you'll check out the over 550 podcasts, such as this one, that you will find helpful as well. We also would invite you to check out our workshops. We have 3-day intensive workshops that we offer. The Men's Journey Workshop we host every month here at Faithful and True. And we invite you to click on workshops, click on the Men's Journey Workshop, and read all about the opportunity that you have to come visit our center and to partake in the 3-day intensive event. We also have the 3-day workshops for the spouses, for the women, and also the 2 various versions that we now offer for couples. So check out all of those events. We hope that you'll consider calling and registering for those. The men's and the women's journey workshops, you can register right online at faithfulandtrue.com. So until next time, we thank you for listening. We thank you for watching. And we hope that this coming week will be a week for you that is filled with many blessings and with great vision.